Perfect. So welcome to tonight's training. Is the second training in the series. September is a bit more like building the foundation, understanding the energy and the principle around healing. So last week we had our first session. We take a look at the basics of energy and how the world of quantum actually works. I know that might sound, for some of you, that might have been quite new. For a majority of you, that probably was something that you already knew. But I always say, no matter how much we know, we always learn something new. And, being open to learning and listening from different perspectives, which I love, because I always learn something new, is what quantum is all about. Quantum field is all about different perspectives and different ways of looking at things, because in quantum space, depending on how we observe and how we set it intentions and where we focus our energy, that's what we are looking at and that's what we are creating. So I always love to look at things from different perspective, even if I've been looking at them for a long time with the same view. It's always good to shake things up because it reveals certain things that we might not have seen. Welcome everybody that's joining in. Let me know if you are from Asia Pacific. Some people are joining from Europe, so would love to know where you're from. English, 16 years in Italy, perfect. Yeah, I'm a traveler around the world as well. My home is in my heart, I guess. West Australia, beautiful. Always wanted to go to Perth, still on my bucket list. So tonight we are actually gonna go dive a bit into some state of flow and emotions. And we're gonna look at how they're connected. We're gonna kind of look at, what emotions really are, just the basics. We're not going to dive really deep yet. So September is a bit more about foundations. And then we're going to dive deeper and deeper and deeper with every month. There's speakers coming that we're going to look at specific programs as speaking specific categories. Categories? I never pronounced that right. I always change words and pronunciations. It just feels better to me. So I've done my little spiel of who I am and what my background is in the previous session. So if you don't know me, just so you know me for tonight, I'm Petra. My name is Petra. I come from a small country in Slovenia. It's in Europe, next to Italy. I've been here for 9 years now, almost, in Australia. Traveled around the world a lot. Have a huge healing journey behind me. And being connected and exposed to this world of energy and quantum space since I was 7 years old. I started seeing energy when I was 11, feeling things, seeing things. So don't let that scare you. I need to really focus now. I have really good energetic boundaries, so that doesn't work that way. But if you really want to know my story, go watch the first video from last week. For those of you who have been in Sydney in the last year in November for Healy conference, I've shared my story fully on stage, and had a lot of physical challenges, almost died when I was 20. So just letting you know that I understand of how it is to be in pain. I understand how it is to come from a lack mindset. I understand how it is to go through a war. I understand all of the contractions. So we're going to talk about the contraction today a bit. So I also understand how it is to go through that transition and transformation and come onto the other side. So I want you to understand that I relate to probably every single one of you that's in here. And I come from my own experiences. This is me sharing my experience and my knowledge and my integration of what I've done in my life. And by all means, this is not the fact and everything that I do, and this is the way it is. I see this more as an opportunity to learn, and through feedback, because we all carry wisdom through our life, and we gain wisdom through our experiences. So if you have things to add, if you have things to share, I would love that. I love the Healy community because I think there's so much knowledge in here, and it's not about me, it's about you and the community. So I really want you to participate and share with each other, because if we share with each other, you never know who you can help and who you can inspire. So I have enabled everyone an option to unmute themselves. If you wish to put your camera on, would love to see your face. If you're doing certain things in between, I completely understand. So that's perfectly fine. Okay, Zimbabwe. Oh my God, Debbie. I love that. My brother went into Zimbabwe years ago. He traveled Africa a lot. So wow, that is awesome. That's on a bucket list as well. Perfect. Okay, let's start. So I want to be respectful for everyone's time so we can actually finish on time. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen. And you let me... okay, it's true. Okay, so how do I do this? This one, perfect. Can you see my screen? Shift your frequency. Yeah, cool. So tonight we are talking about unleashing energy flow and for personal growth and emotional transformation. This is like a long title, yeah? But in essence, it's literally we're gonna talk about the energy flow, which is the state of being, the flow, what we always call, you need to be in flow, be in a flow, whatever that really is. So we're going to look at that, and we're going to look at why that is important, and why do we need the state of flow for an emotional transformation, and why do we actually want emotional transformation, right? Because sometimes people say, oh, you want emotions, or you need to transform emotions, and then you go and ask, why do I need that, right? So we want to kind of understand why we're doing things, which is really important in quantum field. So that's first thing. So let's start. So what is energy flow? What is your definition of energy flow? You can read that here, that's not a problem. But I would love to know, do you know what energy flow is? Do you know what state of flow is? Do you actually use it? Do you know how it feels? Any of those things. You can unmute yourself if you want to, otherwise you can pop that into a chat, and I will just move my chats so I can see. Here we go. Perfectly fine. Okay, now I'm kind of organized. Here we go. Okay, so state of flow. Energy flow is literally a state of being. Literally, state of being, how we feel, how we act, how we react or respond. And it's actually where energy flows with no resistance. Meaning if we have, and that means through all the layers of the body, because we talked about it last week a bit, we have multiple layers of our body. It's not just the physical matter. We have the aura space, which has, 7 layers. We have, all the stuff that we don't see. There's all the layers of the body. So the flow means no resistance. So if we look at it in physical element, it's like the river. So river flows, it's kind of encompasses in the banks of the river, and that's the path of the river. So if the river is flowing, normally with its pace, and then all of a sudden we have a storm and you have all this debris, from rocks and things like that moving into the river, it's going to kind of prevent the flow to flow naturally as it was before. So it's kind of blocking it. It's creating resistance. So that's kind of what happens in our life on different levels of our body as well. So when we're saying we are in a state of flow, meaning we're a state of being, our mindsets, our emotions, and our feelings, we're going to look at those two with the different. And how we actually vibrate through the entire being is what we are creating in our life. And the less resistance we have, the more flow we have. But why do we want flow? Why? What does that give us? Why do we want to actually be in that state? Well, if there's no resistance, there's more available information, because we know information can be opportunities. It can be so many different things, like situations in life that kind of come all of a sudden, be it, what we call negative situation, or something that we call, oh my God, that's a blessing, right? It's just our perception of how we see it. But in essence, is just literally saying, either going in this direction and we are kind of widening the space, which creates more flow, or we are closing the space, or the path. Yeah. So it's actually limiting what's coming through. And what's going to come through, it depends also on our frequency. Frequency just means how, for example, if we want to feel happy, yeah. So let's look at the emotional part so we understand what that actually means in real life. So if we say I'm in a frequency of happy, yeah, or a vibration of happy, yeah, that just means that you are feeling happy multiple times a day. Yeah, because frequency, what we've learned last week, is just an amount of how many times per certain interval of time you actually, you create a wave. And a wave can be an emotion, a wave can be a mental pattern, a wave can be your inner critic. Yeah, a wave can be your expression. A wave can be joy, happiness. It can be fear, shame. Yeah, so there's different ways of how we look at frequency. But if you're feeling joyful 20 times a day, but you're feeling fearful 100 times a day, then you are in a state of fear. Does that make sense? Even if the joy is 20 times a day, more times you feel a certain frequency, a certain emotion, a certain thought, that is the state of being you're in. So the state of being of flow has a foundation, and we're going to look at that. But why do we want the state of being? It gets us more opportunities, meaning more things that we would like, more things that are driving us closer to where we want to go. It also gives us more awareness. We are more in tune with our environment because there is no resistance. As soon as there's a resistance, it's like a pain or like an open wound. Yeah. So it's always nagging you. So you're focusing on that instead of the environment around you and what's actually coming towards you. You also have a better response to environment because you're not reacting to the environment out of that wound and pain that you're feeling, but you're actually responding to the environment based on the frequency you're holding. What that means, we're going to look at with the letter. We also have less triggers and less structures. So trigger, what we call an emotional trigger. For example, somebody tells me I don't know, this is just a scenario. Yeah. Somebody tells me I am selfish. Yeah. Who has ever heard of that? Yeah. People say a lot of things, right? But what other people actually say, it's not about us. It's how they see the world. So if somebody says to me, I'm selfish, then I can go, okay, I can respond to it and I can step back and I go, if there's no traction or it's less traction, I would probably respond and I would stop and take a breath and I would actually look at that person. I would go, oh, am I really selfish? I would check in with myself. And if that's not the case, I would go, okay, I understand where you're coming from. I would go with compassion. So the response will actually change and shift. We also, in this case, that means better boundaries. So who has perfect boundaries? Anybody? No? Good. Because if you have perfect boundaries, then I have to tell you that unfortunately, you are not supposed to be on earth. So we all learn boundaries and we learn it differently in different ways. So boundaries are really important when we are actually wanting to be in flow because we're choosing ourselves and our path instead of actually giving energy to others. We also get faster income when we are in flow. State of flow gives us more traction along the path of the river. So there's less blockages stopping us back. Yeah. Meaning, if somebody says to me, I'm selfish, and I react, that's not true, right? And I come from fear and anger and I'm thinking, that's me. Yeah. What that stops me in my path. I'm not actually walking my path faster. I'm actually stopping and using my energy, and I need to actually regenerate. So this is kind of the basis of what we're talking about in flow. And we're going to look at how that looks like on an emotional level in real life. And then we're going to look at how we can use Healy to actually help us move through that and shift that. Everything clear till now? If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to pop them into the chat. I will go through the chat at the end so we can actually shorten this as much as possible. Okay, so energy foundation. Let me just pop the people in the waiting room into, sorry for guys, so here we go. Okay, so energy flow foundation. So what does it actually build the flow? How do we get there? Yeah, how do we actually cultivate the flow in our life, right? Because I had people tell me for years, you just need to be in state of flow. Yeah, that's how it goes. And I was like, but what the heck is state of flow? Like, what do I do? Like, just, surrender to everything and just give up and, do nothing and whatever, right? Then I actually started to test myself and actually understand what's happening in the energy space and in my real life, and how was that reflecting in my real life. And I tested certain things, and I actually realized this is what flow is. So by all means, this is not the entire thing. If you have anything to add, please do. For me, looking at the state of flow, there's two things that need to be present. One is surrender, and the other one is trust. So surrender is the flow of the river. Like we said, if we're looking at the river, it's literally the water flowing. Yeah, it's natural flow. It's natural way of moving through the earth. Yeah, and it's our energy moving through life. That doesn't mean only through the body. It also means through every relationship and any situation in our life. Yeah, and that water will encounter certain blockages. Yeah, and then it's our choice to respond or react. This means that the water has no resistance. It's literally flowing and there's no resistance if we are in state of flow, natural balanced flow. Trust is actually the structure of the river, the banks, the left and the right and the bottom. Yeah, that's the structure, is the trust. If there's no trust, there's no guidance. There's literally no cup for the water. Yeah, so you can look at it as masculine and feminine. You can look at it just as a surrender and trust. Whatever words you want to take, it really doesn't matter. But that's kind of the structure of the flow in life. So if we can't surrender to the process, if we can't surrender to the path, it really doesn't matter. So if you are building a business, or if you are, creating a family, if you're a parent, if you are, having trouble with relationships, if you are healing your physical body, doesn't really matter, because surrender, opposite of surrender, is control. So as soon as we actually have control, we are contracting the flow. So we are slowing down the river. Yeah, we are blocking the water. If we don't have trust, we don't have the cup for the water. We don't have the banks of the river. So water is just going to go everywhere. Yeah, that's how it looks like in real life. Those two together, paired together, they actually focus the energy into outcome. So our focus is the vision where we want to go. Yeah. Why am I saying this? Because this is all based on energy and frequency and vibration. So when we understand that every thought in quantum field is actually creating our reality, be it physical, emotional, energetic, it really doesn't matter. Yeah. We also need to understand that the more we laser focus the energy, the faster we get to the outcome. And the more we surrender and trust the process, the less blockages and the faster we'll get to the outcome. Yeah? Does that make sense? Okay. So how do we cultivate surrender and how do we cultivate trust? This is a process, so it's not going to happen overnight, just letting you know. But it is an important process, especially when we're using energy and healing. Because without intention, and intention is something we're going to look at in October, but without the intention, there is no focus. So until we are actually clear on where we are going, it's really going to be hard to surrender to the process and trust that we are carried and supported to where we need to go. So it's kind of like faith in something that you feel in the future, but it's not here yet. So, it's like, I've heard this in a movie the other day, many times, but remembered the other day. For those who are from Europe, there is a train that goes through the Alps, and the train tracks were built before the train was actually created to run those tracks. So they needed to have a vision and they needed to have faith that that train will come someday, even if the tracks were made before the train was actually made at all. Yeah. So this happens the same with either being our physical diseases, being our life changes that we want to create, things that we want to create in life, emotional changes, things, heaviness, the baggage that we want to let go, relationships that we want to change. It really doesn't matter. We need to have the vision. So cultivating surrender. The best option for me, this is my experience, you can share yours and how you've cultivated it if you have that in your life, is to actually be aware and pause before you respond or react to any situation in life. Take a breath, yeah, because we tend to react out of the contractive energy in the body, and I'll describe what that is later. But we are instinctive, yeah, and sometimes in order to actually rewire our brain electrically, we actually need to pause before we actually create a sentence or respond in any way. Body is our greatest messenger. Your body will tell you exactly what emotions you're feeling, what sensations are in the body, and what you actually need to do. Your body is the best thing and the best tool for you to create boundaries. There's ways to do that, but just letting you know, your body will tell you clearly where your boundaries need to be set and how they need to be set. Presence, living in this moment, not in a past and in the future, is the most important thing, because if we're looking at from the quantum field and energy, we are creating our future today, in this moment, right now. So whatever you're feeling, thinking, seeing, you are already manifesting in the future. You're always manifesting. Yeah, there's nothing additional that you need to do except tweaking it, but you're always manifesting. So have that presence in the moment to understand what's going on around you. Gratitude is the best way towards, and that's something that research is also showing. Also be curious, be like kids. Yeah, don't attach to things, start learning about things, and instead of reacting that that's not okay or it is okay and judging and labeling things, and we do that as humans all the time, curiosity is something that actually really, really helps us to surrender, because we are in the moment playing. Exploring, opening our hearts even though it hurts, and acting from love. So I tend to ask myself, when I pause and take a breath, I ask, what would love do? What would love do in this situation? What would love do? What would I do? And then I actually start responding differently. And that's a process that it's not going to happen overnight. You need to practice. The more you practice, the better you're going to feel, the better it's going to be, and the better outcome you're going to have. But if you do it bit by bit, the outcome will come. How do we cultivate trust? That's a bit tricky one, right? Because majority of people actually don't understand what trust is within themselves. And when we're in relationships, we tend to actually demand that trust from others. But if we don't trust ourselves, the messages from our body, if we don't actually have the relationship of trust with ourselves, nothing in our world, an environment which is just a mirror, will reflect that. So integrity is one of the most important things when cultivating trust. And I know it's hard, but it is one of the most important things. Being true to your word, yeah, be it to yourself or to others. Brutal honesty when we don't want to admit something to ourselves, but it is true. If we are actually honest with ourselves, we can change 50% of things really fast. So that's something that we need to practice. But honesty is something that will change your life completely really fast and build trust along the way. Consistency, values, core values. Your core values are things that don't change, and they will always be there to tell you what boundaries are being crossed. And if you're true to yourself, you know that you can trust yourself. And if you do that to yourself, you can trust others without a problem, because you can trust your body to tell you if you can trust somebody or not. As I said, boundaries, allowing to make mistakes, which we tend to be quite critical of ourselves, and I'm one of them too. But mistakes are actually just learnings. Kids make mistakes all the time. You know, they need quite a lot of time to learn how to walk, but we don't judge them. We are there to hold the space for them. So be that for yourself. Kindness, self-care, and self-love. This is what I would add. And getting clear on your wants and needs, because needs are behind your values. So this will build your trust. The more you work on yourself, and Healy is a great tool to do that because it brings awareness, this will help you cultivate that. At the end, I'll show you all the programs that you can use to cultivate surrender and trust as well to help you shift the frequency faster. Okay, emotional resilience. Probably a lot of you here have seen this scale of ascending and descending emotions. Have anybody that hasn't seen this? Anybody that doesn't know what this is? Okay, so emotions have frequency, they're energy. Yeah, that's why we call them energy in motion. Yeah, they are emotion. So when you look at this scale, you can see there's a spiral going up, then a spiral going down, what we call an ascending or descending spiral. Yeah, the colors actually tell you the frequency, yeah, of that spiral, where it sits. So the darker you go up, the higher the frequency, the smaller the waves. The lower you go down towards the red, the lower the frequency, the bigger the wave. So what does this mean? When we go down, we are actually contracting. When we go up, we are expanding. So the higher the frequency, we are more expansive. The lower the frequency, are more contractive. But what does this mean? Well, if we look at it on a physical level, if you feel fear, which is a contractive emotion, including with guilt and bitterness and shame and victimhood and all of that, there's different levels, yeah. But if you feel fear, what happens in your body on an energetic level, because cells of your body actually feel that, yeah, because they have energy in them, yeah, they start contracting. So that means it's like a vacuum. They literally start shrinking. So if you start shrinking, if the fear is the emotion, what is the feeling of fear in the body? You squeeze your tummy. You can't breathe, right? You have a shallow breath because your lungs kind of contract. So your body will actually tell you what's going on when you're feeling certain emotions. And why is this important? Well, if you look at the opposite, which is, for example, self-love, freedom, knowledge, empowerment, those are all expansive emotions. And what happens in the cell? It actually expands. It has more air and water and minerals, and it can breathe. Yeah. So if we are living in fear all the time, or any contractive emotion, yeah, this is just, let's say that we don't have any suppressed emotions in our body, and we are just experiencing things from the environment. So if we are always in that space and that frequency of contraction, there is no space for new things to come in. If we are majority of time in the expansive frequency, meaning love, self-love, positive self-talk, whatever that is, yeah, we have more space for things to come in. Does this remind you of the flow of the river? So when we actually widen the flow of the river, we expand our emotion, we expand our frequency, we have more space to come in for new things, new opportunities, new ways, new thinking, new people, new whatever. Yeah. So all of that can come in. Now let's look at if we actually have suppressed emotions, because we all do. Yeah. There's no one on this earth that doesn't have suppressed emotions. So if we have suppressed emotions, that happened in the past. So that's an emotion that was a contractive emotion that was actually not processed, and it got stuck in the river. So now it's stuck in the river, and now it can't literally move. So it's in that river, that's a rock that doesn't move. Yeah. So, and it's always in contraction. So nothing new can come in. So then you have this same frequency come into your life. Somebody tells you you're selfish, and you literally react from that rock. What's going to happen is everything around that suppressed emotion in the body will start vibrating in contraction. So how do we shift this? Well, Healy is the greatest tool ever because it actually tells you what you have suppressed in your body. And you can actually vibrate that frequency to that rock, yeah, to that suppressed emotion that happened years ago, and actually soften it. So anything that comes in, whatever positive thinking you're gonna, or feelings you're gonna bring into your body, it's gonna dissolve it. So you have the power to change and shift. How awesome is that? So we're not actually, left to be rotten with all these emotions. Why I'm saying rotten? Because keeping all this suppressed emotion, contractive emotion, not having enough oxygen. Imagine this to be a volcano. So if you have so much tension in one place, it's going to explode somehow, and one day, and it's going to explode and create a lot of damage around, yeah, whatever is going to explode. So if we are actually looking at that in that physical way, if we are dissolving the pressure, if we are actually helping our body to transform those suppressed contractive emotions and move them into neutral emotions, at least before we go into expansion, because trust me, you can't go from fear to kind of love and enlightenment like in 3 seconds. Yeah. Although the emotion we feel in the body only lasts 6 seconds. So just letting you know, only lasts 6 seconds until you actually attach to it and you feel it for the rest of the time. So it's our perception and our way of thinking and what we actually, where we want to stay in the frequency after 6 seconds. It's our responsibility. And when I say responsibility, I mean ability to respond in that moment, because we all have the ability to respond to anything. It's just what we choose to do. Yeah. So cultivating emotional resilience comes from awareness. So when we are actually aware that there is something within our body, even if we can't see it, we might feel something, but we actually can't pinpoint it. If we are aware and we kind of start reflecting on things and observing things in our environment, sitting with ourselves, using Healy to understand ourselves deeper, to come back to the body, to connect to the body, and to allow the body to release, we have done more than 50% in that moment. And more you're going to do it, yeah, the emotions, I know, I feel, yeah, they can be a bit tricky, right? Because nobody wants to feel pain, nobody wants to feel betrayed, nobody wants to feel fear, nobody wants to feel anger. But if you give them power and attach to them and hold them because you're afraid of them, you actually are expanding them. And you don't want to expand them in contraction. You want to expand them in their expansion. So if we are looking at that, it's really important to understand feeling, it's literally energy moving through the body. So if you breathe through it, it's going to pass faster than you think. So if you have any questions on that, we can come back to it. There's a whole emotional part we're going to do. We're going to go deeper into that. But in order to actually look at what we can do to cultivate emotional resilience, we need to look at how we can use Healy and how we can use certain other tools. I'm a true believer combining tools together that you have in your life is true empowerment. Healy is an awesome tool. It's a bridge. The way I see it, it's a bridge. It allows us to actually connect with the parts of ourselves that we can't consciously see or feel. And we can actually bridge that gap slowly, bit by bit, and expand ourselves. The more we actually transform the negative emotion, the more we expand. Yeah. And more we actually are capable to achieve and create in our life. So, how do we do that? First, we need to understand how to cultivate the flow within our body. And the best way to do that I wrote you some programs here, there's a lot of them, that you can actually start using. You don't have to do all. Yeah? Try them and see what your body says. Observe, have awareness, be mindful of what actually happens after you use a program. Because programs are here to help you. But if you have no intention of understanding what the programs do to your body or to your emotional state, you're not going to have such improvement that you want because there is no focus. So the best programs I use to come back to state of flow are coherence, bioenergetic support, free flow in, what is DC? I forgot. I wrote this and then I always forget the DC. Let me click on my Healy so I can actually go and tell you. I think it's free flow. I think it's, deep cycles. Yeah, free flow in deep cycles, fine flow in job. Correct. And then we have the feel good systematic, which is in mental balance, pineal gland harmony if you have the bioenergetic vitalization. Yeah. And spirit if you have the well-being programs. If you don't have any like certain things in here, you don't need to use them. Coherence is my top program. Yeah. And I really love it. Otherwise, free flow in deep cycles are great to actually activate your cells. Fine flow in job is actually grounding. It has a zero frequency and it's really grounding and it calms your nervous system and it's beautiful to come back to center. Yeah. And then experiment what really feels good and important for you. And then how do you, when you are in your flow, yeah, getting in your flow, so you can actually open yourself out. It's like, getting into that neutral state. Yeah. And neutral state is gratitude. Gratitude is actually a neutral frequency between the contraction and expansion. So getting in that space will help you move towards trust and surrender. So best programs for me for trust, I use Inner Strength Systematic, which is mental balance. The one that I use is also in Inner Beauty, in the beauty. Yeah, I know it says beauty, but it's actually self-love and self-confidence and things like that, which is really good. Strength and fitness, if you need a bit more strength in your body to have more energy. Positive thoughts, balanced nerves, which works on your nervous system, which we know because fight and flight response work in a contraction environment. Inner unity and inner beauty. self-confident, inner unity. I think it is in the mental balance, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check. No, inner beauty, inner unity. I have to double check that one. And then surrender. Soul cycle in entire program list is something that works really well to balance and support you emotionally, and it really builds trust and surrender through self-confidence, through acceptance, emotional balance. So soul cycle is something that I use a lot, and my partner has a really profound experience that actually was interesting because he's quite a shy person. He doesn't like to share things on social media. He doesn't really, he talks to me and talks to people that he loves, but otherwise he's quite shy and quiet. And then he started using Soul Cycle when we actually bought it. And he was using acceptance and he was using self-confidence. I think Inner Unity is Soul Cycle, if I'm not mistaken. So he started doing that for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden I see his posts on Facebook sharing videos and him doing the videos about certain things that he likes, and he starts talking to people on Messenger, and he starts sharing to me, oh, I've been talking to 5 people today. I'm like, what? So I could see firsthand, and he didn't actually connect it at all. And I was like, what were you doing? And he was like, oh, I used that thing that we bought, that program, the soul thingy. And I'm like, you mean Soul Cycle? And he was like, yeah, that thing. I was like, what did you run? And he was like, well, acceptance and in confidence, whatever I felt like. I was like, okay, cool. So I was like, that's interesting. So yeah, he has a pretty cool experience with that one. So give it a try and see what happens with you. Observe, journal, just track, but don't expect anything, right? So detachment, surrender to the process and see what happens. So those are my favorite ones for trust and surrender to build it. And then what I like to do is depending on what I focus on. So there's different layers and levels that you can focus on with building emotional resilience. My favorite thing to start with is Schussler salts. Yeah. I don't know if anybody uses that. I used to use Bach flowers a lot, but then I actually settled in Australia bush flowers. You can scan yourself. It gives you an emotional aspect. It also gives you kind of the direction of what you need to work on. And you can vibrate that back into your field. Yeah, it's a resonance through the Blue Wave app. Yeah. It's a resonance scan, and then you can vibrate that back to your body. And I'll show you what I do with Schussler salts. I'll share my screen as soon as I finish this one. So I can actually show you what I do and how that looks like. A bit more advanced would be aura scans if you want to go deeper to actually see what layers of the body you have resistance. And then coaching program if you want to look at the layers of the mental beliefs and rewiring your brain. So all of that is personal growth and really deepening the emotional resilience. Yeah. The more you're going to do it, the more you're going to shift the frequency, because you're going to send the information to the body and the body will start using it. So one thing that I would really encourage you to not do yeah, is to scan yourself every day and vibrate that. Because you're sending your body too many different frequencies and you haven't integrated the first ones. So the way I do it, try it and tell me how you like it. But the way I do it is, for example, I scan an aura scan on Monday. Yeah. And then I would actually vibrate that whole list for about 4 to 6 minutes. Yeah. Every day or twice a day for about 4 to 5 weeks. Check with your body what your body wants. So I work with that list for 4 to 5 weeks. Why? Because I don't know how far out of balance I am. So if I'm out of balance and my emotions are out of balance and certain patterns are out of balance, this is the balance in the center. If I'm way out, the frequency I'm going to send once a day and I'm going to scan different frequency every day, it's not going to bring me back to balance. So I work with one thing and I actually move it closer to balance. And then I work with another thing and I move it close to balance. Otherwise, I'm literally bombarding my body with so many frequencies that my body doesn't know how to integrate. Yeah. So this is my mentality, giving you an information. You can give it a try. Let me know how it goes and what your feedback is. Would love to know. But I actually found way back, I started with Healy 3 years ago when it was not in Australia yet. We had to order it from Singapore. And I overdone it on the programs completely. And then I started looking at how I can actually benefit my body better. So this actually started working for me. Give it a go. Let me know what you think. So we're going to look at the Schussler styles, but something that I really, really want to emphasize, when you scan yourself and you send frequencies, be it through the blue app or through the pink app, yeah, because we have two different applications, meaning either you charge your cells or you actually send information to your field and to your body and to your cells. It doesn't really matter. If your body has been in contraction, physical contraction, your muscles are contracted, you're dehydrated, your fascia, which is like the connective tissue, has been dehydrated, yeah, which is the structure of the body. If you send frequency through something that's stone, you're literally bouncing onto stone. So what you need to do, you need to help your body loosen that up. And the best way to do that is movement. Yeah. So walking helps the pressure through the body. Fascia releases, or yoga, which stretches the muscles and stretches the connective tissue, helps to dissolve all that really tight material that has been contracted for so long. And the more you combine those two things together, what happens is you're releasing the flow. Things can move through faster. So you get better regeneration, you get better healing, if that makes sense. And also think something else I want to add. We haven't touched on the breath, and that's something that we're going to look at later in the series. But just to add on this, breath in ancient medicine, everyone has written about it, yeah, and we are coming back to that as well. Breath is free, and we actually don't know how to breathe. The second thing I want to say is that, I don't know if you know, when you actually breathe and your breath and your oxygen comes to the bottom of the lungs, there's a connection with your blood there. It carries the energy, it carries the oxygen and minerals throughout your bloodstream. What does that mean? That your breath actually moves energy through the body. So if you're breathing properly while you're moving and exercising, and if you're grounding and breathing while you're doing Healy, you're actually helping to move the energy through the body faster. Yeah. So you don't have to do whatever deep breaths in a way of, oh, I need to go do all these breathing techniques. No. All you have to do is literally focus on the breath and do a deep breath, what some people call pranayama breath. Yeah. Focusing on the belly. Really, literally just a natural inhale and no hold and exhale. And just focus on that while you're actually doing healing and while you're grounding. And another thing that I would like to add here as well before we move into anything else is, if you're not grounding with frequency and adding charging your cells, what happens is you are charging your cell and electrons, but you're not discharging whatever your body needs to let go. So if there's no grounding, you can't discharge electrons. So water and grounding are crucial when you're doing frequency. So have that in mind. Okay, if you need any exercises, if you're interested in whatever you want to add on, just tag me in the comments in the Facebook group, and I can post some links if you need to. But how do we integrate? Yeah? So how do we actually integrate all that we actually discussed today? Emotional transformation comes with practice. and it comes with discipline, and it comes with sustainability, something that you can do daily. How many of you do gratitude? This is something that has been here for a long time. Yeah. So gratitude, I have an app because it's easier for me. And I do 3 things in the morning and I do 3 things at night. Yeah. So I make it a bit spicy for me the way that I would like to, so I can focus it, so you can play around. But gratitude is something that really helps. Why? Because it keeps you in the state of neutrality, neutral frequency. So you're not dropping down into the contraction too fast, and you have the foundation daily to actually build on the expansion. So that will help you transform your energy faster. Yeah. Second practice. So these are 2 things that I would like you to try, yeah, if you can, is frequency. I know this is a long thing, but it's not that bad. Yeah. What I would like you to experience is to actually dedicate a month, 4 weeks. Yeah. And run coherence if you do have it. Yeah. If not, choose whatever programs. If you have the basic Healy, let me know, tag me in the comments, and I'll find a better program for you. But run coherence daily, once a day. And then we'll take a look at Schussler salts so you can actually work on your emotions. But what I would do is I would scan Schussler salts and I would run that once a day, just vibrate for about 4 to 6 minutes for 5 weeks. And then just observe what kind of emotions are coming up per week, per day, what's happening for you, and literally just reflect. Keep a journal if you like to. Make memory notes, like, just mind notes if you have one. Basic things. You don't have to do a lot. Just observe. And you will get triggered. I promise you. Yeah. And this is not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing, because as soon as you get triggered in the world, what happens is you are starting to dissolve old patterns and contractions in the body. So the environment is mirroring you what you are ready to process, what you are ready to look at, what you are ready to let go. So when something happens that you think, oh my God, why again? Stop, take a breath and say, thank you. Thank you for showing me this. Thank you. I'm ready. I'm at that stage. I'm ready to let go, which is a huge blessing. You are literally letting go of so much old stuff that's been holding you back. So these are some prompts that you can use when you are triggered, and you can start reflecting. Reality check is first. Is this actually what I'm feeling? Is it true or not? Is it actually happening, or is it happening in my head? Yeah. Is it something I'm seeing? Then what do I believe in this situation? Do I believe what they're telling me, or do I believe what I'm actually believing within my body? Is this what I want for myself and in my life? Is this bringing me closer to where I want to go? Yeah. What is my responsibility in this situation? So responsibility meaning, what is my ability to respond? How can I respond right now to bring me closer to where I want to go? And what do I have control over? We always have control only on things that we respond or react, and how we see the world around us. We can't control anything else. So if that happens and you kind of, shifted, and you kind of, not in a really good state of mind, go put some soul cycles on, put some balance nerves programs to kind of bring you back to balance. Do some gratitude. What also helps is thinking about positive memory. So when you're in that space of, vortex spiraling down of fear and shame and whatever is happening to you, and we all have that, what helps to me is I take three deep breaths and I go, okay, memory. So what is the memory that I feel the most safe, the most loved, and the most powerful in my life? So you can choose one or the other, doesn't matter. Yeah. And you literally think of that memory in the body, and it will shift you into neutrality. Yes, you need to practice, but it really works. So I'm going to share before we go to questions. Let me just see if I can actually do this, if this will allow me. I'm just gonna stop sharing this, and I am going to share. Okay, this one. Okay. Mm. Okay, so let me share and see if I can share my screen. Here. Oh, here. I can. Okay. Can you please see my phone? It's me and my partner. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into Healy. So this is the Blue Wave app. I'm just gonna turn the pink one out so we can actually go in. And I'm gonna scan myself. Yeah, so you're gonna probably see some pretty bad emotions coming up because today was a pretty interesting day for me. So this is kind of really raw for me. But I think we can relate, all of us. Like, we have, this is just a momentary action, right? And it's because things have triggered, things come up to the surface. That doesn't mean you're that bad person. So take this with grain of salt. Yeah. So I'm just gonna connect to Healy. And I'm gonna scan Schussler salts. Who uses Schussler salts? Anybody here that actually uses them? Perfect. So what is your experience? Would love to hear. Okay, so I'm gonna go into resonance, and I'm gonna start a new resonance, and I'm gonna go, I have two of them because I had grandfathered resonance, but so I'm gonna just use this one. So I'm gonna start analyze. Okay, so what I love about this is it actually tells me the present state, which is the emotion, and then it tells me what is the resistance, or what is the opposite, the positive emotion that I actually need. So not only can I vibrate this, and this is really good for the beginners. Yeah. So if you don't want to dive into the aura scans and all the details and do all the personal growth yet, just start with the basic emotions. So you can start understanding your body. You can start understanding the emotions within your body. And you can actually see how they resonate and how they feel, because the feelings are the expression of the emotions in the body. So when we look at that, we kind of start understanding ourselves better. So for me, this one comes up and it's impatience and conflict. Completely true. Today was an impatience and conflict, and it's quite hard. Yeah, it is 59%, so I'm still okay. But just letting you know, this is the true reality, right? So it tells me what the emotion is. So that means to me, on a scale, it's a contractive emotion. Yeah. So then I go and says iron phosphate, which is literally the frequency of that, is needed in order to shift, right? Sometimes it tells me, what part of the body, which I also like. So for example, resistance is supporting the ability to control one's emotions and promoting patience. Here you go, emotions, right? Promoting patience and harmony, vibrating the information of iron phosphate into the information field of the immune system. So what I like about this, it actually links the emotion to the physical element. So what you can do, you can see how the emotion that I'm feeling right now, not now, I had today, but it was influencing my immune system. So what is needed is actually vibrating that frequency back so the body and the emotional state and the mental state, so all layers of the body, can balance. Does that make sense? Okay. If it doesn't, please let me know. So, and it goes through all of them. So I'm not going to go through all of them. But what I like is you can actually start with the basic, and you can actually look at what that means to you. And you can start exploring, how do you feel? Like, what do you feel about around this emotion, for example, impatient and conflict? Where did it arise? You can go a bit curiosity. What was the situation? What else did you feel behind it? Yeah. And you can do some journaling on that. So it's really simple because it gives you the basic information and you can start diving deeper into yourself. And when you actually understand those basic emotions, then you can go dive into the aura scan, because that's, you know, an emotional and etheric body and different layers. The things can come up that don't make sense to you consciously. But more you're going to be aware, the more you're going to shift this, the better you're going to feel, and more you're going to see the difference in your reality, in your physical reality, because your frequency will change, and that's a perspective to reality. So what I would normally do, I would just choose, this one has 2 minutes, 4 minutes. You can either do manual 4 minutes if you want to. So, but I normally do 6 minutes with a shorter list. So if the list is really long, like if I do aura scan, it has negative resonances, or if I amp up the amount of how many entries I want to see, I would shorten the amount of time. Yeah, because that's more frequency sending to the body, telling the body you need to shift this. Yeah. So I would do smaller amounts, or 6 minutes or 2 minutes, once or twice per day. Yeah. And I would do that for 5 weeks. And I would observe what happens in my environment, what triggers come up, what situations come up. So that is how I use my basic Schussel salts. And we're going to dive into aura scans and everything else in the future. But for now, that's literally about it. Okay, any questions before we finish this for tonight? Which app do you use? So I use the Blue Wave app for scanning, which is not the old one, but the new one. So let me just close this one so I can actually show you. No, here. So I don't know if you see it. No, you won't see it. Maybe I need to do this. So no, I have to share the screen. It won't allow me. So no. So share. Nope. This one. So, do you see my phone? You see my phone? Yeah, okay. So I use this one. So these three are my Healy apps. So the new pink one, which is the Wave app, yeah, and the new blue one, which is also the Wave app, yeah. Much faster, much better. The coaching program on this app is amazing. We're going to dive into that one, but not today. So I use these apps, and that's the search advisor, which is actually to look at certain issues and things like that. So you can look at the programs or what resonates with that issue. So you can actually use those programs for specific issues that you have. So that's what I use. And for scanning, I always use the blue one. The pink one is the application for the body, directly like a battery. Okay, so that's the app. Do we run the same Schussel cells for 4 weeks or do a new scan? No. So the same scan, one scan, and then you actually run it, the same list, for 4 to 5 weeks. Yeah? Because you are actually teaching your body to come back to balance on those specific frequencies. So what you're doing is you're literally transforming that same frequency because it's in the field. Yeah? And then you can see when you're going to scan after 4 to 5 weeks, the same, maybe certain frequencies will be the same. If you're still out of balance, you might need to actually apply them for a while. Yeah. Where can I see your last week training? Oh, yes. So the trainings will be sent out in an email by the end of the month. So all the entire series of the month will be sent out in one email, and you have all the links in there. So you can go back and you can look at all the trainings. They'll be all available on YouTube, but they'll be under the unlisted. So you can't find it by just searching because it's for the members. Yeah. Which gratitude app do you use? Oh, okay. So I use, what's called, I have no idea what it's called. It has a heart. That's all I know. I'm a visual. It's, how do you call this app? I can show you. Let me see if I can actually do this. Okay. So this is the app. So the pink one. Where are you? Here. Here. The pink one. But I think it's called. Let me see. Gratitude. It's just gratitude. If I go on my thingy, gratitude journal, I think it is. Gratitude daily bullet journal. That's the one I have. Found it. Gratitude. Yeah, that's correct. So that's the one I use. I like it. It's simple. I just create my own prompts the way I like to journal, and I just do basics. You don't need a lot of time. Please don't invest, hours and hours, because if you want, of course, do it. But with such a small amount of time that we have per day, it actually takes 5-10 minutes to actually shift the frequency. If you focus the energy, you can shift it really fast. So you don't have to, spend hours into that. Okay, again an hour. What, any questions, any aha moments, anything you would like to add? Would love to hear it. What programs to run for procrastination problem? My question to you would be, why do you procrastinate? So there's something to think about, right? Normally procrastination has fear behind it. So looking at that first and seeing what the reason is. So if the reason is fear of failure, or if the reason is fear of acceptance or rejection, yeah. So there's certain things that are behind procrastination. Then if you have, for example, have fear of rejection, I would run soul cycles, for example, self-confidence, acceptance, things like that. So looking at the root cause of why you do certain things. And I really want you to start, and I'll give you those prompts every week. So you can start thinking differently. You can start approaching things differently. Because if you actually start asking questions, and the right questions, you get empowered, and you can actually start shifting things in your life and creating a life that you really want. The personal vibration, how often do you run this? The vibration in the profile. Oh, you mean, Debbie, you mean the Schlüsselsalz, or the, which ones? Or the soul cycles and things like that? That I'm not, when setting up your profile. I'm not sure I know what you mean by that. You can unmute yourself, Debbie. You can ask me in the blue app. So the blue app, you set up your profile. Let's chat. Hello?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. In the blue app, when we're setting up our profile for ourselves or for clients, we record a personal vibration.
Yeah.
And obviously that changes if the energy around you changes. So whilst we run a program on the salts, for instance, once and run it for 5 weeks, how often would you update the vibration on the personal profile?
Well, depending. So the way I do it, I don't actually update the frequency, because when I do it, I've set a really strong intention to record only the frequency of me, of the essence, not the frequency around. So intention, remember, intention is really powerful. Healy works on intention. So when I do that, I have a clear intention that I actually ask anyone that I add in, to actually keep that in mind, to really clearly focus only on the essence of themselves. Yeah. And I do work with energy, so I kind of create a barrier around them as well. So it really records their frequency. And Healy is actually made with quantum sensor to record their frequency. So I don't change that. If you do want to shift it and you still feel like you need to, I would actually then do that every 5 weeks. So when you shift the frequency of yourself, you're going to shift the frequency that you record as well. That's what I would do, because you shift the state of being. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. I got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions? Anything else? Any aha moments that came today? No. Yes, there are aha moments. Or Ryan, when doing things, I always need to do the trivial things before doing the important thing. Any way to help? Example, you can unmute yourself, and then I can actually give you options. Can you unmute yourself? Can you unmute yourself, Ryan? Okay, so I don't know what you mean exactly, what that example would be, but if that, would be just, doing some basic things like, sometimes I like the procrastination, right? I start cleaning the kitchen before I need to do the presentations, right? So, but at the same time, I also know my body, I know the process. So the more you get to know yourself, I also know that if I start cleaning the kitchen, I'm actually cleaning my own energy. So I'm actually preparing, not dressed up due to hot weather. That's okay. You don't have to show yourself, just unmute yourself so I can actually hear your voice and we can have a chat. No need for camera. But at the same time, I would say that every action has a reaction in energy. So if your body's trying to do something, is either distracting you from taking responsibility for something, ability to respond, or it's actually helping you towards your goal. Yeah. For me, I know that if I'm in a big group of people for a long time and I come home, the first thing that I'll do is take a shower. Yeah. Not just because I'm dirty. I'm not really, because if I'm just with people that I know or that I don't know, that's okay. But I'm cleaning my energy. Yeah. And then I tend to go and clean the bathroom. I know, but my body kind of wants to clean, right? Because it's cleaning the energy. So remember that your home and your environment around you, it's also a reflection of who you are within yourself. So it will show you the information of stuck energy within your body. So if you need to do certain things, before you need to do the important things, I would stop and take 3 breaths and actually ask yourself, why am I doing this? And is this important? And if this is not important, why am I actually doing it? So asking questions to inquire about yourself, what's going on within you. That's all I could do without the example. But otherwise, programs to help. If you're not certain, if you're kind of lost, I would actually either do coherence, because it's going to bring you back into center. Either grounding, so the fine flow in the job, or you can actually do free flow and deep cycle. So any of the free flow programs, if you're kind of procrastinating or if you're doing other things, what you're not supposed to be doing, you need to come back to flow. You need to come back to center, because when you're in center, you're going to have the inner motivation to actually move forward. If that makes sense. Hope that makes sense. Okay, any questions, anything else that you want to add? Otherwise, I want to close tonight. If you have any other questions that arise after this and you have a good night's sleep and you have an epiphany in the morning, if you want to share, please do. Share in the comments in our Facebook group. You can always tag me there. If you do tag me, I can actually see the comments, so I can actually come in and answer all of this, because there's so much stuff in social media. But next week we have another session, so this will be every Thursday night. And in October we're diving deeper. So next week we are still in the basics, but then we're diving deeper. Yeah. Nisha, thank you. Hope this was great, was good. Hope you learned something. Let me know what you would like to learn, because then I can actually give you what you need. But that's it for tonight. It's been too long. I need to shorten this for the next time. But thank you so much for your time, your presence, and your beautiful faces. I love seeing you. And I'll see you next week on the Thursday night, not Tuesday, Thursday. Have a great night. Enjoy and sweet dreams. Good night.